She's the art conservator they called Broken. He's the quiet king of the city, the kind of man who ends a room with one look. One gunshot drags her into his world. One locked door turns pity into protection. 3 nights turn sparks into a wildfire neither of them can control. Then the lie drops. The Infertile label was bought, and someone is using her as bait to trap him. While a cold society mother pays killers, a rival syndicate closes in, and the whole city watches. A single test strip lights up her future and paints a target on her back. He can scorch the streets to keep her safe, or lose her to the very trap built to break her. When love hits like a loaded secret, is she just bait for a war? Or the queen who makes the devil kneel? The crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across the marble floors as Naomi Carter smoothed her midnight blue evening gown, the small velvet box containing the engagement ring burning in her clutch. Whispers followed her like persistent gnats, society matrons hiding their gossip behind champagne flutes. Poor dear. The Hargroves must be devastated. Imagine not being able to provide an heir. Each word stung like tiny needles against her skin. Naomi kept her spine straight, her steps measured, even as her chest tightened with each passing moment. The grand ballroom of the Atherton Hotel, usually a showcase of guilt and glamour, felt more like a beautifully decorated cage tonight. She needed air. The terrace beckoned through tall French doors, promising a moment's respite from the suffocating sympathy and barely concealed judgment. The spring evening wrapped around her like cool silk as she stepped outside, her hands gripping the stone balustrade. The crack of gunfire shattered the night. Naomi's breath caught in her throat. Before she could process what was happening, a solid wall of muscle slammed into her, pushing her behind a massive marble pillar. The scent of sandalwood and leather filled her senses as strong hands held her in place. "Don't move," a voice commanded, low and rough against her ear. Men in black suits materialized from the shadows, their movements precise and deadly. They swept past her position, weapons drawn, communicating in swift hand signals. Naomi's heart thundered in her chest as she recognized her protector, Dominic Vale, the man whose name mothers used to frighten their children, whose empire ruled the city's shadows. His dark eyes scanned the perimeter, calculating, assessing. The shooter had a clear shot at the terrace. They waited. His gaze shifted to her face, sharp and searching. "They watched you first." "That's ridiculous," Naomi managed, though her voice wavered. "I'm just here to—" "Return this?" Dominic produced her clutch, somehow acquired in the chaos. The velvet box peeked out, its presence an accusation. "Ending things with young Hargrove after the convenient leak about your supposed infertility?" Heat flooded her cheeks. "My medical records are private." "Were private," he corrected, reaching into his jacket. He withdrew his phone, showing her photos that made her blood run cold, images of her bedroom, her office, her private spaces. "These were sent to my security team anonymously this afternoon. Someone's been watching you, Ms. Carter. Someone who wanted me to know they were watching." Naomi's fingers trembled as she swiped through the photos. "How did they—" "The real question is why?" Dominic's voice remained calm, but his eyes hardened. "Someone orchestrated this entire situation. The diagnosis leak, the photos, the shooter, you're being played, and I want to know why." "I need to leave," Naomi said, straightening her shoulders. She wouldn't let fear rule her, wouldn't let another man dictate her choices. "Leave to where? Your compromised apartment? The streets where someone's clearly marked you?" His laugh held no humor. "The only reason you're alive is because my men spotted the shooter first." The weight of his words settled over her like a heavy cloak. Beyond the terrace, police sirens wailed in the distance. The party inside had dissolved into chaos, guests streaming toward the exits in panic. "I can take care of myself," she insisted, even as doubt crept in. Dominic stepped closer, his presence overwhelming in the confined space behind the pillar. "Pride is admirable, Miss Carter, but it won't stop a bullet. Come with me. Let my team ensure your safety until we understand what's happening." "Until midnight," she countered, needing some control over this spiral of events. "I'll go with you until midnight, then I make my own decisions." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "As you wish." His hand settled at the small of her back, guiding her through a service entrance where more suited men waited. They moved with military precision, surrounding them in a protective formation as they descended through the hotel's back passages. The sleek black car idling in the loading dock gleamed like a predator waiting to strike. Dominic opened the door himself, helping her inside, despite her capability to manage on her own. The interior was all butter-soft leather and subtle luxury, But Naomi noted the thickness of the windows, the reinforced doors. As the door sealed shut with a heavy thunk, the sounds of chaos from the hotel faded to nothing. Through the tinted windows, Naomi caught a glimpse of another black SUV pulling away from the curb, its headlights dark. "Your security detail noted that vehicle earlier," Dominic said, following her gaze. "It's been circling the hotel for hours." Naomi's fingers clenched in her lap as their car pulled away from the hotel. The city lights blurred past the windows, but her mind remained sharp, cataloging details like she would with a suspected forgery. The weight of the engagement ring in her clutch, the precision of the shooter's timing, the mysterious photos. "Why would anyone target me?" she wondered aloud. "That's what. We're going to find out." Dominic's voice was steel wrapped in silk. "Someone's using you as a pawn in a larger game, Ms. Carter. The question is whether you're meant to be sacrificed or saved." The car glided through the darkened streets, its armor shielding them from whatever threats lurked in the shadows. Naomi watched her familiar world pass by through bulletproof glass, wondering how her plan to return a ring had turned into this dangerous chess match. She had until midnight to figure out who wanted her dead, and why Dominic Vale seemed so invested in keeping her alive. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, painting golden stripes across Naomi's unfamiliar bed. The sheets whispered luxury, but her mind screamed danger. A soft woof at the door made her start. A massive mastiff lay sprawled across the threshold, his amber eyes tracking her movements. "That's Atlas," a deep voice explained. "He's particular about his charges." Dominic stood in the doorway, impeccable in a charcoal suit despite the early hour. He held out a delicate china cup, steam curling with hints of citrus. "Honey lemon tea. You seem like someone who appreciates the classics." "Thank you." Naomi accepted the cup, noting how Atlas's tail thumped once at Dominic's presence. "Though I assume this hospitality comes with conditions." "3 rules." He leaned against the doorframe, hands in his pockets. "No lies between us. They waste time we don't have. No leaving without security. Someone wants you vulnerable. And no phones without our encryption. Your lines are likely tapped." The tea warmed her hands as she absorbed his words. "You promised answers about last night." "My analysts worked through the night." He gestured for her to follow. "There is something you need to see." The penthouse unfolded in clean lines of stone and steel, modern art pieces worth fortunes displayed with casual elegance. Atlas padded after them as Dominic led her to a sleek kitchen where tablets and folders covered the counter. "The Hargroves have been making interesting moves lately." He spread out financial documents, specifically courting the Rinaldi syndicate through a series of strategic scandals and market manipulations. "The Rinaldis?" Naomi set down her cup. "I don't understand." "Enzo Rinaldi." Dominic pulled up a photo of a sharp-featured man with cold eyes. "He specializes in leveraging society scandals for business gains. Your very public humiliation fits his pattern." Anger flared in her chest. "I'm not some pawn in their game." "No," Dominic agreed, his voice softening. "You're collateral damage in a much bigger play, one that nearly got you killed." Naomi paced the kitchen, heels clicking on marble. "I need clothes for my apartment, my own things." "We can arrange that." He studied her. "But first, there's a lead we need to chase. A club owner named Lydia Cruz. She's connected to your shooter." "Fine." Naomi met his gaze. "But my apartment first." The drive was tense, Dominic's security team scanning every corner as they approached her building. Her apartment door showed no signs of forced entry, but inside told a different story. Drawers hung open, papers scattered, yet nothing valuable was missing. "They wanted you scared," Dominic observed, watching her catalog the chaos. "Wanted you to feel violated." Naomi grabbed essentials with efficient movements, refusing to let her hands shake. They succeeded. Back in the car, Dominic's phone buzzed. "That's Helena. She's sending over options for tonight." "Tonight?" "The club. We need to look the part if we're questioning Lydia Cruz." His eyes tracked the street. "Helena's closer to your size." Hours later, Naomi stood before a mirror in a perfectly fitted black dress that whispered expensive simplicity. Helena's taste was impeccable. The dress suggested power without trying too hard. "Ready?" Dominic appeared in the doorway, devastatingly handsome, in black on black. Naomi squared her shoulders. "To walk into a den of criminals and demand answers, as ready as I'll ever be." His lips quirked. "Stay close to me. Let them see you're protected." The club pulsed with neon and bass, bodies writhing under strobing lights. Dominic's hand at her waist was both possessive and protective as they descended the stairs. Eyes tracked their movement. Hungry eyes. Calculating eyes. "Showtime," he murmured, steering them toward the VIP section where a woman holding court would have answers about why someone wanted Naomi dead. The music throbbed around them, but Naomi felt strangely calm. Whatever game was being played, she refused to be a helpless piece on someone else's board. She'd find her answers, even if it meant walking into danger with a devil who promised protection. They approached the velvet rope, Dominic's presence parting the crowd like a blade through water. His fingers tightened fractionally at her waist. A warning, a promise. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. Naomi lifted her chin, channeling the quiet dignity that had carried her through gallery openings and academic defenses. She might not have chosen this path, but she'd walk it with grace. The neon lights painted shadows across Dominic's sharp features as they prepared to confront a woman who might hold the key to unraveling this deadly puzzle. Atlas waited at the penthouse, their silent guardian. The Mastiff's loyalty reminded Naomi that even in this dangerous new world, there were constants she could trust. The sun had set on her old life, but perhaps this darkness would reveal truths she needed to face. The club's bass echoed in her bones as they moved deeper into its neon heart. Dominic's arm was steel beneath her fingers, his presence both thrilling and terrifying. Whatever answers awaited in the VIP section, Naomi was done being a victim. It was time to become a player in this dangerous game. The bass vibrated through the soles of Naomi's heels as she and Dominic navigated the packed club. Bodies parted before them, hungry eyes following their progress. The VIP section rose like an island of luxury above the writhing dance floor, and there, lounging on a leather banquette, sat Lydia Cruz. She was all sharp angles and calculated glamour, dark hair swept into a severe knot, red lips curved around a cigarette. A leather-bound ledger sat beside her martini glass. "Dominic Vale." Lydia's smile was a slash of crimson. "Slumming it tonight. Just showing my guests the city's attractions." His hand settled at the small of Naomi's back, warm through the thin fabric of her borrowed dress. The bouncer unclipped the velvet rope, and Lydia gestured to the seats across from her. "Please, join me." Dominic ordered whiskey, neat, while Naomi declined with a polite smile. She wouldn't risk dulled senses tonight. "Ms. Cruz," Naomi began, voice steady despite the pounding music. "I'm curious about an incident at the Hargrove event last night." "Aren't we all?" Lydia tapped ash into a crystal tray. "Though I heard that wasn't the only drama. Something about a medical scandal." Her eyes glittered. "Such a shame when a woman can't fulfill her basic purpose." The words were meant to wound, to make Naomi flinch. She didn't. "I'm more interested in names than gossip," Naomi said, maintaining eye contact, "particularly about a shooter who seemed very interested in my movements." Lydia's smile faltered for a fraction of a second. Her gaze slid to Dominic, who sat with predatory stillness, ice clinking as he sipped his whiskey. "I'm sure I don't know what you mean." "No?" Dominic's voice was velvet over steel. "That's disappointing. I was hoping we could avoid complications." "Complications?" Lydia's laugh was brittle. "Are you threatening me in my own club?" "Threatening? I'm having a drink and pleasant conversation." He set down his glass with perfect precision. "Though I should mention my team is currently acquiring your phone records. For thoroughness." Color drained from Lydia's face. "It wasn't supposed to be dangerous," she blurted. "Just enough to scare her off." "Who hired the shooter?" Naomi pressed. "I don't know names, but—" Lydia hesitated, then reached for her ledger. "There's a doctor, Portman. The Hargroves keep him on retainer for delicate paperwork. Medical records, test results, anything that needs adjusting." The implications hit Naomi like ice water. Her infertility diagnosis, the one that had destroyed her engagement and reputation, could have been fabricated. A crash from the bar area interrupted her thoughts. Shouting erupted as two men squared off, their argument quickly escalating to shoves. The crowd surged, drinks spilling as people pushed back from the fight. Dominic moved with fluid grace, positioning himself between Naomi and the chaos. "Time to go." His voice was low in her ear. "My men have what they need." He guided her through a service corridor, his body shielding her from the press of panicked patrons. Security radio chatter crackled as his team coordinated their exit. The night air hit like a slap after the club's heated interior. Dominic's convoy waited, engines purring. He helped her into the lead car, then slid in beside her. They were 3 blocks away when Helena's voice came through the comm system. "Tail on your 6, black motorcycle, single rider." Dominic's expression hardened. Test it. Route Baker. Their driver took a series of precise turns, the kind that would reveal amateur surveillance. The motorcycle kept pace until they approached the wealthy district where the Hargroves lived. Then it peeled away, heading straight for the family compound. Well, Dominic said softly. That's confirmation. The rest of the drive passed in tense silence. Back at the penthouse, Atlas greeted them with a quiet woof, padding alongside as they made their way to the kitchen. Helena waited with fresh tea, her expression carefully neutral as she watched Naomi sink into a chair. Thunder rolled in the distance as she slid something across the counter, a cream-colored business card. Dr. James Portman, Private Practice. Naomi stared at the elegant typeface while lightning flickered across the city skyline. The card represented more than just a lead. It was proof that her life had been deliberately dismantled, her reputation sacrificed for someone else's game. The tea steamed in delicate cups as Thunder growled again. Closer now. Atlas settled at Naomi's feet, a warm, solid presence as she confronted the possibility that everything she'd lost had been based on lies. Through the wall of windows, lightning illuminated gathering storm clouds, nature's violence matching the turbulence in Naomi's heart. The business card felt impossibly heavy in her hands, a key to unlocking the truth, but also a door to more danger. Helena moved with quiet efficiency, laying out fresh pastries that no one would touch. The kitchen's steel surfaces reflected the storm's approaching light show, making the space feel both intimate and exposed. Dominic stood at the windows, his silhouette carved against the darkening sky. His presence was both reassuring and unnerving, a dangerous man who had become her unlikely protector in a world where medical records could be weapons, and truth was negotiable currency. The storm drew closer, each thunderclap more insistent than the last. Atlas pressed closer to Naomi's legs, offering silent comfort as she traced the embossed letters on Portman's card. Outside, the first heavy drops of rain began to fall, nature's percussion joining the thunder's symphony. The morning light struggled through rain-streaked windows, casting watery shadows across Dominic's pristine kitchen. Naomi stood at the counter, Dr. Portman's business card clutched in her hand like a lifeline. Her reflection in the darkened windows showed a woman ready for battle in a borrowed navy blazer and pencil skirt. The fabric felt foreign against her skin, but the armor of professionalism gave her strength. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail, emphasizing the determined set of her jaw and the fire that sparked behind her eyes. "I need to end this," she said, turning to face Dominic. "Today." Her voice didn't waver, carrying across the marble countertops with quiet certainty. He studied her over his coffee cup, his expression unreadable. Steam curled between them like question marks as his dark eyes assessed her resolve. The silence stretched, broken only by the gentle tap of rain against glass. "We do this carefully. 2 cars, different routes. Helena goes in with you as family." His words were precise, measured, each one a carefully placed chess piece, in a strategy she was just beginning to understand. "And you?" Naomi asked, watching him set down his cup with deliberate precision. The soft clink of porcelain against marble punctuated her question. "Lobby. Close enough to intervene, far enough not to spook anyone." His jaw tightened, a barely perceptible shift that spoke volumes about his concern. "You'll have exactly 20 minutes before the Hargroves could be notified. Their network is efficient." The way he said it, clinical, matter-of-fact, reminded her of exactly who she was dealing with, a man who understood the mechanics of power and surveillance intimately. Helena appeared in the doorway, dressed conservatively in cream and gray. Her outfit whispered old money and unquestionable authority. "Ready when you are, cousin." Her smile held steel beneath the warmth, her eyes scanning Naomi with professional assessment. "You look perfect, confident but not aggressive. Exactly what we need." The drive to the clinic was tense, their convoy splitting and merging through morning traffic like a choreographed dance. Rain drummed steadily on the armored roof as Naomi rehearsed her approach in her head. Through tinted windows, she watched pedestrians huddled under umbrellas, oblivious to the life-changing confrontation that awaited her. Her fingers traced the edge of her borrowed jacket, finding comfort in its structured seams. Dr. Portman's office occupied the 3rd floor of a glass medical tower. The waiting room breathed wealth, orchids in crystal vases, butter-soft leather chairs, and soft classical music that masked conversations between patients. The air smelled faintly of sandalwood and antiseptic, an oddly soothing combination. Portman himself emerged to greet them, all gleaming teeth and manicured hands. His bespoke suit whispered of country club memberships and discreet payments for special services. "Miss Carter, what a pleasure!" His smile never reached his eyes, which remained calculating, assessing the potential threat she posed. "And your cousin?" "Helena Wright," she supplied smoothly, then recited patient privacy statutes like poetry, her tone pleasant but brooking no argument. "Now, about those original lab results. We'll need to see them immediately." Portman's smile flickered like a faulty light. "I'm afraid those are confidential." "Like the phone calls you made to Genevieve Hargrove?" Naomi kept her voice steady, leaning slightly forward. "I want to see my actual results. All of them. Not the fabricated ones you presented to destroy my engagement." Color drained from his face as Helena quietly detailed the legal consequences of falsifying medical records. She mentioned jail time and license revocation with the casual ease of discussing the weather. His resistance crumbled like wet paper beneath the weight of their combined pressure. "Mrs. Hargrove was persuasive," he admitted, retreating to his inner office and retrieving a file from a locked cabinet. His hands trembled slightly. "She wanted the engagement ended cleanly, no scandal, just a medical reason that would make everyone back away quietly." Naomi's hand shook as she read her real test results. Perfectly normal fertility markers across the board. The black and white evidence of the betrayal burned fresh, but she channeled the white-hot anger into precision. Each number, each normal finding, was another nail in Genevieve's coffin. "I need timestamps, dates, and your signed statement about who ordered this." Her voice remained level, even as her heart raced against her ribs like a caged bird. "Now, and I'll need copies, certified and notarized, before I leave this building." 20 minutes later, she emerged into the lobby, clutching a folder of notarized documents. Each page felt heavy with vindication. Dominic stood by a rain-streaked window, his posture relaxed but his eyes alert, scanning each person who entered. When he saw her face, something in his expression softened, the mask of the businessman giving way to something more intimate. "You didn't break," he said quietly as they walked to the car, his hand hovering protectively near the small of her back without quite touching her. "You were broken by design. There's a difference." The drive back was silent, the rain intensifying into sheets that transformed the city into a blur of gray and silver. Streetlights refracted through water-slicked windows, casting strange patterns across their faces. By evening, the storm had knocked out power to half the district. The penthouse ran on generators, but the usual city glow was replaced by darkness, broken only by lightning that momentarily painted everything in harsh white relief. Naomi stood at the windows, watching transformers blow in the distance, like blue-white stars, being born and dying in seconds. The folder of evidence sat on Dominic's desk like a bomb waiting to detonate, its contents powerful enough to destroy reputations and careers. She felt him approach before she heard him, his presence warm against her back, a gravitational pull she was increasingly unable to resist. "Thank you," she said softly, her breath fogging the cold glass, "for helping me find the truth, for believing me when no one else did." "You did the hard part." His voice was low, intimate in the storm-dark room, pitched just for her ears. "Standing your ground, demanding answers. Not many could face down a man like Portman without flinching." She turned to face him, close enough to see the flecks of gold in his eyes. Lightning flashed, illuminating the careful way he watched her, like she was something precious and volatile, a rare artifact he wasn't certain he was allowed to touch. The air between them crackled with more electricity than the storm outside. "The truth is," Naomi said, her heart hammering against her ribs, "I'm tired of other people writing my story, of being a character in someone else's narrative." She closed the distance between them, pressing her lips to his. For a moment, he went completely still, frozen like a man who'd been struck. Then his hands came up to cradle her face with exquisite gentleness, returning her kiss with controlled passion that made her breath catch. His restraint was palpable, a leashed power that hummed beneath his touch. His touch was reverent, at odds with the dangerous man she knew him to be. His thumbs skimmed her cheekbones as if she were made of priceless porcelain. When they broke apart, his thumbs traced her cheekbones as if memorizing her features, mapping her for some future time when she might be gone. "Only softness for you," he murmured, his voice rough with emotion. "Only tenderness. But we should talk first. There are things you need to know before we—" The overhead lights suddenly blazed back on, making them both blink like owls caught in daylight. The harsh fluorescence stripped away the intimate cocoon the darkness had provided. They stood breathless, his hand still framing her face, her fingers clutched in his shirt, both suddenly exposed. Yes, Naomi agreed, trying to steady her racing heart. Her lips tingled from his kiss. We should. A sharp electronic chirp cut through the moment, the security system's warning tone. 3 quick beeps that sliced through the air like a knife. Movement detected near the elevator. Atlas raised his head from his bed in the corner, ears forward, body suddenly tense and alert, as they both turned toward the sound. The storm continued its assault on the windows, thunder rolling across the sky like distant artillery, but inside the penthouse, everything went very, very still. Dominic's posture shifted subtly, the lover vanishing as the protector emerged, his hand already reaching for the concealed weapon she knew he kept within reach. The security team moved with practiced efficiency, sweeping the hallway with handheld scanners. Dominic watched, his body angled to keep Naomi behind him, as Marco held up a tiny device no bigger than a button battery. Professional grade, Marco said, examining the listening device he'd extracted from behind a sprinkler head. Signal piggybacks on building Wi-Fi. Could have been monitoring for weeks. Naomi's breath caught. The engagement party, the shooter, my humiliation in the papers. She met Dominic's dark gaze. It was all orchestrated, wasn't it? To see how you'd react? They used you as bait. His voice was dangerously soft, knowing I'd noticed a society scandal targeting someone with your credentials. She wrapped her arms around herself, cold despite the warmth of the penthouse. The Rinaldis wanted to predict your moves, and let's give them something to watch. Dominic turned to his team. Full sweep, every floor, every corner. I want to know how deep this goes. For the next hour, they watched the security team dismantle light fixtures and air vents. 3 more devices emerged, behind a painting, under a desk, inside a lamp base. Each discovery made Naomi's skin crawl. We need to flip their game, she said finally, pacing near the windows. Make them react to us instead. Dominic nodded. I'll leak that you're preparing a lawsuit against the Hargroves. Pull back from certain territories. Make it look like I'm distracted. No. Naomi stopped pacing. I won't be cargo you protect. Let me help set the trap. His eyes narrowed. Explain. The gallery opening tonight, I planned it weeks ago, before everything fell apart. Everyone expects me to cancel, to hide. She met his gaze steadily. Instead, I show up looking composed but raw, no longer hiding your presence. Let them see exactly what they expect. A woman scorned, seeking protection. It puts you in their sights. I'm already in their sights. She stepped closer. But this way, we control the narrative. Dominic studied her for a long moment. 10 feet, he said finally. I'm never more than 10 feet away from you. Non-negotiable. The gallery buzzed with whispers when they arrived that evening. Naomi wore a deep blue dress that caught the light like water, her chin high as cameras flashed. Dominic's hand rested possessively at the small of her back, his presence impossible to ignore. She moved through the crowd with practiced grace, discussing art valuations and restoration techniques, but she let her hands shake slightly when holding her wine glass, allowed her smile to crack at the edges when Ethan's name came up. Did you see? She heard someone whisper. Vale's practically marking his territory. Poor thing must be desperate for protection. Exactly as planned. In a shadowed corridor between exhibits, Dominic pulled her close, his breath warm against her ear. You're magnificent, he murmured. Do you know that? She turned to face him, caught by the raw honesty in his expression. I haven't wanted anything in years that I couldn't simply buy, he confessed, fingers tracing her cheekbone. Then you walked into my life, refusing to be purchased or controlled. I don't want to be owned. Naomi leaned into his touch. I want to be chosen, every day by choice, not obligation. The tension between them crackled like lightning. When they finally returned to the penthouse, the air felt electric with possibility. In his bedroom, shadows played across dark sheets as Naomi reached for him. Their first kiss was deliberate, a mutual surrender. His hands skimmed her sides with exquisite care, even as desire roughened his breathing. Tell me to stop, he murmured against her throat. No. She pulled him closer. Show me how gentle the most dangerous man in the city can be. His laugh was low and heated. Only for you. He traced her collarbone with reverent fingers. Always for you. Clothes fell away like barriers dissolving. Every touch was a question and answer, building trust with each caress. When he finally pressed into her, it was with careful control that made her gasp. "Look at me," he commanded softly. She opened her eyes to find him watching her with fierce tenderness. "Let me see you." Power flowed between them like electricity, but it was honest power, given and taken by choice, not force. His movements were measured, deliberate, designed to draw out her pleasure until she shattered in his arms. "Dominic," she breathed, and his control finally broke. He followed her over the edge with a groan, gathering her close as they both trembled. Later, as moonlight painted silver patterns across the sheets, Naomi traced the scars on his chest while he played with her hair. Each mark told a story of violence survived, but his touch remained impossibly gentle. "The Rinaldis will move soon," he said quietly. "Tonight's show will push them." "Good." She pressed a kiss over his heart. "Let them come. We'll face it together." His arms tightened around her. In the darkness, surrounded by his warmth and strength, Naomi felt truly safe for the first time in weeks. Whatever storm was coming, they would weather it as equals, chosen partners in both love and war. Dawn painted the penthouse in soft gold as Naomi stretched languidly in Dominic's bed. Last night felt surreal. The gallery, their confession, the way passion had finally broken through their careful walls. She watched him move around the kitchen, his usual precision softened by satisfaction. "Coffee?" He glanced over his shoulder, a rare smile playing at his lips. "Please." She pulled on his discarded dress shirt, padding to the kitchen island where Portman's statement lay spread out like a battle plan. The doctor's handwriting shook on the confession, clear evidence of Genevieve's manipulation. Dominic set a steaming mug beside her, his fingers brushing hers. "How's the complaint coming?" "Almost finished." Naomi highlighted another paragraph. "Genevieve's fingerprints are all over this. Medical coercion, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress." The elevator chimed, announcing Helena's arrival. She swept in wearing tactical black, her observant gaze taking in their proximity and disheveled state without comment. "We need to move fast," Helena said, spreading photos across the counter. "Enzo's people are getting sloppy. 3 separate sightings near your old apartment, Naomi. They're waiting for an opening." "So we give them one," Dominic replied, his tactical mind already spinning possibilities. Helena nodded. "A public break. Make Naomi look isolated, vulnerable. Draw them out while you trace the clinic payments." "Absolutely not," Dominic growled, but Naomi was already straightening. "It's smart," she said. "They expect me to be emotional, unstable, a woman scorned twice, first by Ethan, then by you. Perfect target." "There are other ways. None this clean." Naomi touched his arm. "Trust me to play my part." His jaw worked, but he nodded. They spent the next hour choreographing every detail, the location, the timing, the exact words that would draw blood while revealing nothing. At noon, they took their positions outside the courthouse steps. Naomi wore a cream suit that made her skin glow, her spine straight as steel as she faced Dominic. "You can't control every aspect of my life," her voice carried perfectly, drawing attention. "I'm not some chess piece for your power plays." "You're being reckless," Dominic countered, his tone cold enough to freeze. "There are consequences." "To what? Living my own life?" Naomi yanked her hand free when he reached for her. "I won't be caged, not even in a golden one." Phones appeared, recording their drama. Dominic's expression hardened to granite. "Then go! But don't expect me to pick up the pieces when this blows up in your face." Naomi's laugh was bitter perfection. "I never asked you to." She turned on her heel, leaving him rigid and furious on the steps as Helena pulled up in a sleek sedan. They drove in circles for an hour, ensuring no tails, before reaching the safe house, a boutique hotel suite with reinforced doors and clear sightlines. Naomi watched Dominic's tracker move across the city as he dove into financial records and warehouse meetings. "He'll be fine," Helena said, methodically checking sightlines and exit routes. "This is what he does best." "I know," Naomi paced the plush carpet. "I just hate not being able to help." "You are helping. Every minute they focus on you is a minute they're not watching him work." As night fell, sleep proved elusive. Naomi sat at the desk, laptop open to a video recording program. Her finger hovered over the record button before pressing down. "My name is Naomi Carter," she began, voice steady. "I am recording this to ensure the truth cannot be buried. 2 months ago, I was diagnosed as infertile, a diagnosis I now know was falsified by Dr. James Portman under pressure from Genevieve Hargrove." She detailed everything: the leaked results, the society whispers, the evidence of collaboration between the Hargroves and Rinaldis. Her words were measured, dignified, a testament to truth rather than revenge. If you're seeing this, something has happened to me, she concluded. But remember, I chose to fight back. I chose to stand up. And I hope my story helps others do the same. She scheduled the video to post automatically the next afternoon, then closed the laptop with trembling hands. Try to rest, Helena said softly from her position by the window. The rhythmic sound of her cleaning her weapon filled the room. I'll wake you if anything changes. Promise. Naomi curled under the blankets, listening to the steady click of metal parts being reassembled. Helena's presence was oddly comforting, a guardian angel in tactical gear, keeping watch through the dark hours. Her last thought before drifting off was of Dominic's hands, so capable of violence, yet achingly gentle on her skin. Whatever tomorrow brought, they would face it together, not as protector and protected, but as equals in a dance of power, trust, and chosen love. Helena's voice followed her into dreams. Sleep well, little sister. I've got you covered. Sunlight streamed through the hotel's floor-to-ceiling windows as Naomi spread jam on her toast. Helena sat across from her, scanning messages on a secured phone while nibbling dry wheat bread. Any word from Dominic? Naomi asked, trying to keep her voice casual. He's been up all night, tracking. Helena's head snapped up as a piercing alarm shattered the morning quiet. Through the crack under their door, gray smoke curled like serpents seeking prey. That's not right, Helena muttered, already moving. Smoke's too targeted, too fast. She grabbed their go bags while scanning the room. Service exit, now! Naomi abandoned her breakfast, following Helena's precise movements to a hidden stairwell. Their footsteps echoed against metal as they descended, the smoke thickening above them. 2 floors down, a door banged open below. 2 men in maintenance uniforms blocked their path, tool belts suspiciously bulky. Ladies, one called up, voice falsely pleasant. Building's clear except for you. Naomi's training kicked in. Years of reading body language in gallery negotiations. Their stance was wrong. Too controlled for actual maintenance workers. She caught Helena's subtle nod and acted. As the men started up the stairs, Naomi grabbed the fire door beside her and swung it hard. It caught the first man's knee with a satisfying crack. He crumpled, cursing. Helena moved like liquid lightning, her strike to the second man's throat dropping him instantly. Nice door work, Helena approved as they jumped over the groaning bodies. Those self-defense classes paid off! They burst into the morning air just as a familiar black car squealed around the corner. Dominic's knuckles were white on the wheel, his eyes obsidian with rage as he threw open the back door. In! He ordered. Naomi dove for the seat while Helena covered their 6. They peeled away from the curb, but they weren't alone. A silver sedan surged after them, engine roaring. Hold on, Dominic warned. His voice was arctic cold as he watched the pursuing car in his mirror. The sedan rammed their bumper. Instead of fighting the impact, Dominic used it, braking and spinning in a controlled arc that sent them facing their attackers. The sedan's driver jerked the wheel, trying to correct. But Dominic had already anticipated the move. He herded them like prey, each turn precise and devastating, until the sedan skidded into a construction pit. Floodlights blazed on, revealing Dominic's crew surrounding the trap, weapons steady. Out! Dominic commanded the sedan's occupants. Slowly! 2 men emerged, hands raised. One still smelled of smoke. Helena's questioning was surgical and swift. Who hired you? Don't know names, the shorter one stammered. 3 layers of cutouts. Rinaldi territory. The girl, the other added, hoping to buy mercy. We were supposed to take her alive, deliver her south. Dominic's expression didn't change, but the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Helena. On it. She signaled the crew to handle cleanup while they returned to the penthouse. In Dominic's office, he pulled up financial records on multiple screens. Watch, he told Naomi, tracing lines of money from Portman's clinic through various shells until they converged in a company jointly owned by Genevieve Hargrove and Enzo Rinaldi. Perfect, Naomi said, steel in her voice. We have everything, the fake diagnosis, the leaked photos, the attacks, all tied to them. We go public now. Wait. Dominic's fingers brushed her wrist. We're close to the top of their chain. Give me 12 more hours to follow these last threads. We'll have the entire network, not just the visible players. Naomi studied him, this dangerous man who killed without hesitation, yet touched her like she was precious glass. Who could orchestrate violence, yet sought justice instead of revenge. 12 hours, she agreed, but stay with me tonight. When he raised an eyebrow, she added, not for protection, for peace. Understanding softened his features. He drew her close, pressing his lips to her temple. I won't let go until you tell me to. Good. She leaned into his solid warmth. Because I don't plan to. They spent the afternoon fortifying their evidence. Helena coordinated with their legal team, while Dominic's analysts tracked money trails. Naomi organized medical records and witness statements into an airtight narrative. As evening fell, they gathered in the penthouse's main room. Maps and documents covered every surface, their investigation laid bare. Atlas padded between them, his presence steady and grounding. Tomorrow, Dominic said, studying a complex web of shell companies, we end this. Tomorrow, Naomi agreed. She touched the files that proved her truth, not just about her fertility, but about her strength. They thought they could break me with whispers and lies. Instead, they gave me a reason to fight. Dominic pulled her into his arms, his heartbeat strong against her cheek. They never stood a chance against you. Later, in the quiet of his bedroom, Naomi traced the scars on his chest while he ran gentle fingers through her hair. No words were needed, just the peace of being held by someone who saw all of her and chose to stay. Outside, the city hummed with its usual energy. Tomorrow would bring chaos and consequences, justice and revelations. But tonight was for them. Two people who had found unexpected salvation in each other's strength. Atlas settled by the door, their faithful guardian. Helena's team maintained their watch, and in the darkness, Naomi finally allowed herself to rest, safe in the knowledge that she was exactly where she chose to be. The morning rain painted silver streaks down the study windows, drumming a gentle rhythm as Naomi and Dominic reviewed their final moves. Steam rose from their coffee cups, untouched and cooling on the mahogany desk between stacks of documents and surveillance photos. Mara Quinn has the best reputation for exposing corruption, Naomi said, tapping the journalist's profile on the tablet. Her stories stick because she triple-checks everything. Dominic nodded, his attention split between her and the financial dashboard tracking scheduled transfers. St. Gabriel's is secure ground. My people swept it an hour ago. You'll have 40 minutes with her while I trace the wire movement. The confession should be enough. Naomi touched Portman's signed statement, his admissions of falsifying medical records preserved in precise legal language. Once this hits the news, Genevieve's reputation is finished. And Enzo loses his society contact. Dominic's fingers brushed her shoulder as he passed, a casual touch that still sent warmth through her. Helena will shadow you at the church. I need to be mobile when that transfer activates. The drive to St. Gabriel's was quiet, rain making the world soft and gray. Helena sat up front with the driver, while Naomi reviewed her talking points. The church's Gothic spires pierced the low clouds, its stained glass glowing like jewels. Inside, the air was heavy with incense and history. Naomi chose a pew beneath the rose window, its colored light painting patterns across her hands as she waited. Mara arrived precisely on time, a sharp-featured woman in her 40s with keen eyes and a recorder ready. Ms. Carter, Mara's handshake was firm. Thank you for trusting me with this. The truth deserves sunlight, Naomi replied, passing over the folder of evidence. For 30 minutes, they worked through the story methodically. Mara recorded Naomi's account of the false diagnosis, the coordinated leak to society papers, the subsequent attacks. Her questions were precise, building an airtight narrative. Legal will review by tonight, Mara promised, tucking away her recorder. This runs tomorrow morning, first edition. Naomi stood, smoothing her skirt. Thank you for hearing me. She was almost to the door when a young acolyte appeared, maybe 16, with nervous eyes. He pressed a folded paper into her hand before vanishing down a side corridor. The note was typed, clinical. Warehouse 19, midnight. Bring no one, or the truth dies. Naomi's pulse quickened, but her hands remained steady as she photographed the note and sent it to both Helena and Dominic. Helena materialized beside her within seconds. Already tracking the boy, Helena said quietly. Cars waiting. Back at the penthouse, Dominic's reaction was exactly what Naomi expected. Absolute refusal. It's clearly a trap, he said, pacing the length of his office. You're not walking into an ambush. They wouldn't risk this unless they had something concrete, Naomi argued. Something worth trading for my appearance. Or they're desperate and sloppy. But she could see him considering alternatives, strategist's mind turning possibilities. What if we gave them what they want to see? Naomi pressed. A look-alike, surrounded by your people. while you follow the money trail that could expose their whole operation. Helena, who had been silent, spoke up. I know someone who could pass for Naomi at a distance. Former operative, experienced in deception plays. We could control the entire approach. Dominic's jaw worked as he studied the warehouse blueprints already pulled up on his screens. Finally, he nodded. Helena runs point on the swap. I'll track the transfer to its endpoint, likely Genevieve's accounts feeding Enzo's operations. They spent the afternoon planning while rain continued to fall. Helena's team mapped sightlines and escape routes. Dominic's analysts monitored all activity around Warehouse 19. Naomi worked with her double, a woman named Marie with similar build and bearing, until they could mirror each other's movements. At sunset, they moved to an empty parking garage for final rehearsals. The concrete echoed with their footsteps as Naomi and Marie practiced the choreographed approach again and again. Helena drilled them on contingencies, while Dominic's team placed cameras and sensors around the warehouse district. Once more, Helena called out. Naomi, show Marie the head tilt you do when thinking. Naomi demonstrated the unconscious gesture, watching Marie replicate it perfectly. They had the walk down, the subtle mannerisms that made the deception believable. Good, Helena approved. We'll have eyes on every angle. If anything feels wrong, we extract immediately. The rain finally stopped as evening deepened into night. Naomi changed into dark clothes that would photograph well under streetlights, making Marie's matching outfit more convincing. The comms unit in her ear was practically invisible. 10 minutes, Helena announced at 9:50 p.m. Positions! Dominic pulled Naomi aside for a moment, his touch gentle despite the tension thrumming through him. Be careful, he murmured against her hair. You too, she whispered back. Find what we need. The decoy operation began precisely at 10 p.m. Marie, wearing Naomi's coat and signature walk, approached the warehouse district from the east, while Naomi monitored from a secure location. Helena's team moved like shadows through the surrounding buildings. Everything was in place, every angle covered. Through her earpiece, Naomi heard Dominic's quiet voice. Transfer activated, following the money now. A pause then. Stay safe. She watched the cameras tracking Marie's progress, noting how convincing the deception looked. Her double moved with perfect confidence, every gesture calculated to draw attention, while Helena's people slipped into position around the perimeter. The trap was set. Now they would see who emerged to spring it. The decoy operation unfolded like clockwork. Marie moved with calculated vulnerability through the warehouse district, her steps echoing off brick walls. Right on cue, 3 men emerged from the shadows, their movements betraying amateur status. Helena's voice crackled through comms. Target acquired, moving to intercept. Dominic's team swept in silently, efficiently subduing the would-be kidnappers. The men were zip-tied and hauled away for questioning before they could radio their failure. Naomi watched the feed from the agreed-upon coffee shop, a cozy place called The Daily Grind, where she and Helena occupied a corner booth. Steam rose from her untouched cappuccino as she tracked the operation through her earpiece. First team neutralized, Helena reported, her tone clinical. But something feels off. These guys were too green. Dominic's reply came swift and sharp. Agreed. Stay alert. I'm tracking the transfer through. He cut off abruptly. Movement on your 6th second team. The warning came just as Naomi caught the distinctive metallic sound, a suppressor being screwed into place. Helena tensed, hand sliding toward her weapon. The coffee shop door chimed. Through the reflection in the window, Naomi saw a man in a delivery uniform, his jacket bulging unnaturally. Before either woman could move, Dominic burst through the door, his broad shoulders filling the frame as he positioned himself between Naomi and the threat. The shooter fled, disappearing into the delivery alley behind the shop. Dominic's men pursued while Helena hustled Naomi toward the bathroom, securing the space with practiced efficiency. Clear, came the report 10 minutes later. Target escaped but dropped his phone, bringing it up. Inside the bathroom, Naomi gripped the edge of the sink, adrenaline making her hands shake. As her heart rate slowly normalized, a different kind of awareness crept in, the kind that made her mentally count back days, then count again. Helena, she said quietly, what's today's date? Helena checked her watch, then studied Naomi's face with dawning understanding. You're late? Naomi nodded. The past weeks had been chaos. The ballroom shooting, seeking refuge with Dominic, uncovering the Hargroves plot. Their first night together had been less than a week ago, but there had been that storm-charged evening before. I need a test, she managed. Can you? On it. Helena slipped out and returned minutes later with a discreet paper bag. "Take your time. I've got the door." Naomi's fingers trembled as she opened the package. The 3-minute wait felt eternal. When she finally looked down at the plastic stick, the second line was unmistakable, deep pink against white. She pressed a hand to her still flat stomach, emotion welling up fierce and protective. This child, created in the eye of their storm, was a miracle she hadn't dared hope for after months of false diagnoses and orchestrated humiliation. Helena knocked softly. "Naomi?" Opening the door, Naomi wordlessly showed her the test. Helena's face softened as she pulled Naomi into a gentle embrace. "We protect life," she said firmly. "This little one already has an army." Naomi took a steadying breath. "I need to tell him. Can you?" Helena was already dialing. "Dom, come up. Just you. All clear." Minutes later, Dominic entered, his usual armor of controlled power stripped away by concern. He crossed to Naomi in 3 long strides. "Are you?" She took his hand, pressing his palm flat against her abdomen. Understanding dawned in his eyes as she whispered, "I'm pregnant." The transformation was immediate and profound. His entire body stilled, then curved around her protectively as wonder replaced worry in his expression. His thumb stroked small circles against her belly. "A baby," he breathed. "Our baby." "The timing, with everything happening," Naomi started. "Is perfect," he finished, "because it's ours." His other hand came up to cradle her face. "No one will touch what belongs to us. Not now, not ever." The vow was quiet but absolute, carrying the weight of everything he commanded. Naomi leaned into his strength, feeling safer than she had in weeks. Helena cleared her throat from the doorway. "The phone we recovered? Every order assigned G. Likely Genevieve. Times and locations match our intel on the Rinaldi connection." Dominic nodded, but his focus remained on Naomi. His hand hadn't moved from her stomach, as if already shielding their child from the world's threats. "We should move," Helena continued. "I've got a car waiting in the underground garage." "Take us home," Dominic ordered, wrapping Naomi in his jacket. His touch was infinitely gentle, despite the steel in his voice. "Then triple the security detail. No one gets within 100 yards without complete verification." As they moved toward the exit, Naomi caught glimpses of Dominic's men establishing a protective perimeter. Helena walked point, her vigilance heightened by the new stakes. The underground garage was already swept and secured, a sleek, armored vehicle idling quietly. Dominic helped Naomi into the back seat, then slid in beside her, keeping her tucked against his side. His hand returned to her stomach, a tactile reminder of his promise. "I never thought," Naomi began. "I know." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "But you're stronger than their lies. We both are." The car pulled away. Smoothly, Helena at the wheel with 2 escort vehicles boxing them in. Through the bulletproof glass, Naomi watched the city lights blur past, feeling the steady rhythm of Dominic's heart against her cheek. Their child would be born into a complicated world, but also one filled with fierce protection and unwavering love. As if reading her thoughts, Dominic's arms tightened fractionally around her. "Rest," he murmured. "I've got you both." Dawn painted the penthouse windows in watercolor grays as Dominic packed Naomi's bag with mechanical precision. His jaw worked silently, the muscle there betraying his tension. "The safe house is off-grid," he explained, checking his watch. Helena vetted the staff personally. "You'll have everything you need." Naomi stood at his desk, pen hovering over legal documents. "And you'll sign this, making it clear any retaliation comes from you alone?" "Yes." He moved behind her, one hand settling protectively over her stomach. "Though anyone who comes near you won't live long enough to read it." She leaned back against his chest, memorizing his warmth. "Just until the story breaks? Just until it's safe." He pressed a kiss to her temple. 48 hours max." Helena appeared in the doorway, car keys jingling. "Time to move. I've got the route mapped with 3 alternates." The drive out of the city felt like leaving one world for another. Skyscrapers gave way to suburbs, then to rolling countryside. Helena kept up a steady stream of practical information, her voice pitched to soothe. "The kitchen's fully stocked with pregnancy-safe teas," she said, taking a curved back road. Ginger for morning sickness, chamomile for sleep. Deep breaths help with anxiety. In for 4 counts, hold for 7, out for 8. Naomi practiced the breathing pattern, watching familiar landmarks vanish in the rearview mirror. Dominic followed in a separate car, maintaining distance to avoid drawing attention. The safe house surprised her. A sprawling farmhouse with modern security seamlessly integrated into its rustic exterior. Solar panels mixed with surveillance cameras. Garden beds doubled as cover for motion sensors. Inside, Helena gave her a quick tour. Offices here, stocked with art books. Bedrooms upstairs, bathrooms en suite. Kitchen's got satellite internet for emergency calls only. Naomi set up in the office first, needing to handle business before emotion could overwhelm her. She called Mara on a secured line. "Documents are authenticated," the journalist confirmed. "Story drops in 48 hours. You're sure about this?" "Completely." Naomi's hand drifted to her stomach. Some truths need light. She spent the afternoon filming her statement, taking breaks when pregnancy fatigue hit. Helena brought her crackers and tea, hovering with quiet concern. "You're good at this," Naomi observed, "taking care of people." Helena's smile was wry. "Usually it's bullet wounds, not baby care. This is nicer." Updates from Dominic came in coded bursts throughout the day. He'd frozen 3 Rinaldi supply chains, turned 2 captains with carefully applied pressure, and traced a series of payments to Warehouse 19, the same location from the church note. "They're getting sloppy," Helena commented, checking her phone. "Fear does that." To stay busy, Naomi cataloged the office's extensive art collection. The familiar work of examining bindings and noting conditions centered her. She took short walks in the evening, Helena, a constant shadow, both of them watching the tree line. "The property's got a 3-mile secure perimeter," Helena assured her. "Nothing moves without us knowing." Naomi nodded, one hand pressed to her barely there bump. The baby makes everything feel more urgent somehow, more vital. "That's nature's way," Helena said softly. "Protecting what matters most." As midnight approached, they sat in the kitchen drinking herbal tea. Helena was explaining different security protocols when movement caught their eye. A small drone, lights blinking, hovering over the distant field. Helena's reaction was instant. She activated jammers while shepherding Naomi away from windows. Her fingers flew over her phone, sending one word to Dominic. "Soon." "Standard scout drone," she explained, checking monitors. "They're testing boundaries." "Or sending a message," Naomi said quietly. "Let them." Helena's smile was sharp. "We've got messages of our own." They settled into the safe house's rhythm. Helena patrolling, Naomi reading, both women aware of the countdown ticking in their heads. The story would break soon, changing everything. Naomi found herself touching her stomach more frequently, making silent promises to her child. They would know truth, not lies, strength, not fear, love, not control. The night deepened around the safe house. Helena checked locks and sensors, while Naomi prepared for bed, both of them moving through practiced routines. The drone had been a reminder. Patience was its own kind of power. In her room, Naomi opened her laptop to review her filmed statement one last time. On screen, her words were clear and measured. "Medical fraud is violence. Using false diagnoses to control women's choices is violence. Today, I choose truth." She closed the computer, feeling the weight of the next 48 hours settle around her shoulders. Outside, Helena's footsteps made steady circuits of the house. Somewhere in the city, Dominic was dismantling empires to clear their path. The baby fluttered. Too early for real movement, just her awareness of changes beginning. Naomi rested her hands on her stomach, breathing in the pattern Helena taught her. In for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. The safe house hummed with quiet technology. Security systems, climate controls, satellite links, a fortress disguised as a refuge. Naomi thought of Dominic's face when she'd told him about the baby, how tenderness had transformed his features. They were building something new here, in the spaces between danger and hope, a future shaped by choice, not coercion, by truth, not manipulation. Helena's voice carried softly up the stairs. "All clear for now. Get some rest." Naomi settled into bed, letting the safe house's layers of protection wrap around her. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. For now, she focused on breathing, on being, on believing in the strength they'd built together. The night air carried distant sounds, wind in trees, nocturnal birds, the subtle hum of security measures, standing guard. Naomi closed her eyes, one hand resting protective over her stomach. They were safe here, waiting for dawn, for justice, for the next step forward. Headlights crept down the dirt road leading to the safe house, moving with predatory patience. No engine sound. They'd killed the motor and were coasting. Helena's hand pressed against Naomi's back, guiding her toward the reinforced pantry. Stay quiet. Stay low. The pantry was a cleverly disguised panic room with steel core walls hidden behind innocuous shelving. Naomi slipped inside while Helena took position, weapon ready. Glass shattered in the kitchen. Heavy boots scraped across broken shards. Helena's first shot dropped a shadow in the doorway. Her second caught another man in the shoulder, but smoke grenades hissed across the floor, filling the space with thick gray clouds. Crouched in the darkness, Naomi pressed both hands to her stomach. "Help is coming," she whispered to the tiny life within. "We just have to wait." Tires screamed outside, multiple vehicles arriving fast. Gunfire erupted, sharp cracks echoing through the smoke. Then Dominic's voice cut through the radio static. "Helena, guide us in." "North entrance clear," Helena called back. 2 down inside, 1 mobile, smoke obscuring west corridor. Dominic moved through the house like a force of nature, precise and unstoppable. He found Naomi in the pantry, scooped her into his arms, and pressed a fierce kiss to her forehead. "Are you hurt?" "We're okay," she assured him, fingers curling into his jacket, his jaw clenched at the "we." Without another word, he carried her through thinning smoke to the waiting convoy. Helena fell in beside them, coordinating with the security team. "Intel confirms Genevieve and Enzo are meeting at Warehouse 19, Helena reported, checking her phone. "They're drafting some kind of statement." "Get Naomi to the backup location," Dominic ordered. "I'm ending this tonight." Naomi caught his hand. "Be careful." His eyes softened for her alone. "Always." The warehouse district loomed dark against the waterfront, metal buildings reflecting the city's glow. Dominic's men moved like shadows, securing exits and vantage points. Through thermal imaging, they identified 3 heat signatures inside. Genevieve, a lawyer, and not Enzo, but his underboss, Basilio Trent. Dominic entered alone, Helena covering him from the catwalk. The interior was stark under. Industrial lights. Genevieve sat at a folding table, designer suit incongruous against corrugated steel walls. The lawyer shuffled papers nervously while Basilio loomed nearby. "Quite the statement you're drafting," Dominic said coldly. "Creative fiction about Naomi's character?" Genevieve's smile was brittle. "Simply setting the record straight about a troubled young woman's attempts to manipulate my family." Interesting angle. Not very believable given Dr. Portman's confession. Basilio shifted, hand twitching toward his jacket. Dominic's attention snapped to him. "I wouldn't." The underboss froze, recognizing the promise of violence in Dominic's stance. "There's no need for dramatics," Genevieve said smoothly. "We can discuss this like civilized people." "Civilized?" Dominic's laugh held no humor. "Like falsifying medical records or hiring gunmen to terrorize an innocent woman. Allegations without proof. I have proof. Bank transfers, witness statements, surveillance footage. The question is whether you'll confess now or after I dismantle everything you've built." Basilio moved suddenly, reaching for his weapon. Dominic was faster. A precise strike dropped the larger man to his knees, gun skidding across concrete. Genevieve's hand darted to her phone, trying to activate the drone feed's dead man's switch, but Helena had already disabled it from above. The society matriarch's composure cracked. "You don't understand," she hissed. "That girl would have ruined everything, our reputation, our connections." "So you bought a diagnosis to break her spirit?" Dominic's voice was deadly quiet. "Hired thugs to make her doubt herself. She wasn't worthy of the Hargrove name." "Record that," Dominic told Helena, who was already capturing the confession. Genevieve realized her mistake too late, her careful mask shattered completely. "You can't prove—" "I have Dr. Portman's signed statement about the falsified tests. I have money trails linking you to Enzo, and now I have your confession." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. "You're finished," Dominic continued. "The story breaks tomorrow. But tonight—" He pulled out his phone and dialed. "Tonight I'm calling Judge Matthews. You remember him? You were on that charity board together?" Genevieve's face went pale. "Hello, Your Honor," Dominic said smoothly. "I need some warrants issued for Dawn. Yes, I have evidence of medical fraud, conspiracy, and attempted kidnapping. I'll have my people deliver everything to your chambers within the hour." The sirens grew louder. Helena's voice came over the radio. "Police response in 3 minutes." Dominic ended the call and looked at Genevieve with cold satisfaction. The warrants will be ready by morning, just enough time for you to consider how badly you miscalculated. Basilio struggled to his feet, cradling his injured arm. The lawyer gathered papers with trembling hands, but Genevieve sat frozen, decades of careful manipulation crumbling. Around her, blue and red lights began strobing through high windows. Helena's team melted away into shadow, leaving strategic evidence in their wake. Everything was positioned to support the warrants that would arrive with dawn. Dominic turned to go, then paused. "You tried to break her," he said quietly. "But Naomi is stronger than your lies, and now everyone will know the truth." Police radio chatter filled the night. Dominic disappeared into darkness moments before the first officers breached the warehouse doors. His team was already moving, coordinated and precise, ensuring every piece of evidence would lead exactly where it needed to go. The game was over. The only moves left were Genevieve's desperate attempts to explain why she sat in an abandoned warehouse with an injured mob underboss and a lawyer holding damning documents. The truth would write itself into headlines by morning. Morning light filtered through tall courthouse windows, casting long shadows across marble floors. Naomi stood beside Helena, watching her phone as Mara's story went live. The headline blazed across the screen: "Medical fraud and society scandal. The truth behind the Hargrove engagement." Minutes later, her own video statement appeared on major news sites. She watched herself speak with quiet dignity about medical ethics and personal agency. The contrast between her measured words and Genevieve's exposed scheming was devastating. "It's spreading fast," Helena murmured, scrolling through notifications. "Top trending topic already." Reporters clustered at the courthouse steps, cameras trained on the entrance. When Genevieve arrived for arraignment, her usual regal bearing had crumbled. Her designer suit couldn't hide her sleepless night. 2 officers flanked her while her lawyer tried futilely to block photographers. Inside, the arraignment proceeded with mechanical efficiency. The judge, not Matthews, but one equally unmoved by Genevieve's social standing, listed the charges: conspiracy, medical fraud, attempted kidnapping, criminal solicitation. "How does the defendant plead?" Genevieve's "not guilty" sounded hollow in the hushed courtroom. The prosecutor, armed with evidence from Dominic's carefully arranged raids, argued against bail. "The defendant has extensive overseas accounts and properties. She represents a significant flight risk." The judge agreed. Genevieve's face went slack as she was remanded to custody. Across town, Enzo Rinaldi's empire was imploding. His captains, seeing which way the wind blew, turned evidence over to strategic investigators. His money launderers went dark. By noon, he was desperately calling in favors. Helena's phone buzzed. "He's making a move," she told Naomi, "trying to bribe his way onto a cargo ship." But Dominic had anticipated this. Port authority officers, ones he'd cultivated relationships with, intercepted Enzo at the docks. The would-be kingpin was caught literally holding a briefcase of cash, offering it to an undercover agent. Naomi watched it unfold through updates from Helena's team. Each piece clicked into place with precise timing, evidence surfacing, accounts freezing, allies turning. This was Dominic's true power. Not brute force, but careful strategy. "He's dismantling everything," Helena explained. "Not just taking them down, but making sure they can't rebuild." Hours passed in the safe house as reports filtered in. Naomi worked on conservation papers for the museum, maintaining her professional routine even as she tracked the city's transformation. Helena coordinated security rotations and monitored police bands. The sun was lowering when they heard a single vehicle approach. Helena checked the cameras, then smiled slightly. "Just him," she said. "No security detail, no weapons." Dominic entered alone. He'd stripped away the armor of his position, no suit jacket, no gun beneath it. His eyes found Naomi immediately, holding her gaze as he crossed the room. Then he did something that made Helena quietly slip outside. He knelt, not with theatrical flourish, but with simple intent, not as a power play, but as a man choosing vulnerability. "I've spent my life building walls," he said softly, "creating systems of control, but you've shown me there's strength in choosing to be known." He took her hands, his touch gentle. "I'm asking you to choose a life with me, not as part of my empire, but as my partner. I'll use my power to protect what we build, not to consume it." Naomi looked down at their joined hands, feeling the weight of the moment. "I need terms," she said carefully. "Clear boundaries. Name them." "I keep my museum work. My career matters to me." He nodded. "Of course. Any business that touches our home, I have veto power. I won't raise our child in the middle of deals and threats." "Agreed. I'll create separation." "You see the therapist Helena recommends." Not because you're broken, but because we both need to learn how to live without constant escalation. His thumb stroked her knuckles. Yes. And when our child is old enough to understand, we explain that love isn't possession or control. It's a choice we make every day to be honest and present and kind. Every day, he echoed. I choose you, and this life will build, every single day. She helped him to his feet, then pulled him close. Those are my terms. I accept them all. They moved to the kitchen as evening settled in. Helena returned with folders of legal documents, frameworks for restructuring, proposals for legitimate business fronts, protection clauses for their staff. Naomi reviewed each page carefully while Dominic made notes. The shipping company goes into a blind trust, he said. The security firm becomes its own entity with Helena as CEO if she wants it. Helena looked up from her laptop. I do. And I'm expanding the mental health services for our people. No arguments. They worked through dinner, building clean channels for necessary operations while walling off the darker elements of his world. Naomi insisted on additional support for employees transitioning to legitimate work. Dominic added redundant protections for their extended family. The baby trust should be separate, Naomi said, highlighting a clause. And I want scholarships established for students affected by medical fraud. Dominic squeezed her hand. Already done. Mara's handling the press for the foundation launch next month. Outside, security teams maintained quiet vigilance. Inside, they built something new. A future balance between power and peace, protection and freedom. The legal papers spread across the kitchen table were more than business documents. They were blueprints for a life where love meant choosing each other every day with clear eyes and open hearts. Mediterranean sunshine spilled across the villa's courtyard, warming the cobblestones and releasing the sweet perfume of orange blossoms. Naomi stood before an antique mirror in the bridal suite, her cream silk gown flowing elegantly over her 6-month bump. Helena adjusted the delicate pearl pins in Naomi's hair with surprising gentleness for hands that regularly handled weapons. The perimeter is secure, Helena said softly, meeting Naomi's eyes in the reflection. Today is just for family. Naomi smiled, touching the small of her back where their active child had been doing somersaults all morning. I think someone's excited about making their wedding debut. That little one already has perfect timing, Helena laughed, patting her concealed holster. And the best security team in the hemisphere. Through the window, Naomi watched their intimate gathering of guests settle into their seats. Mara Quinn, no longer just a journalist but a trusted friend, chatted with the villa's staff while discreetly checking her phone. Old habits died hard. The lawyer who'd helped dismantle Genevieve's empire sat near the front, documentation of Dominic's restructuring tucked safely in his briefcase. News had filtered in steadily over the past months. Lydia's club sold to a respectable restaurateur, Dr. Portman's medical license permanently revoked, Genevieve accepting a plea deal that would keep her far from their family. Each piece of their past had been carefully resolved, leaving space for their future to take root. Ready? Helena asked, adjusting Naomi's bouquet of white roses and orange blossoms. Naomi nodded, feeling perfectly calm. This moment belonged to them alone. No society photographers, no whispered judgments, just the truth of what they'd built together. The courtyard's stone archway framed Dominic as she approached. He stood tall in a perfectly tailored black suit, but his eyes held none of the coldness that once made him feared. For her, they held only warmth. Their officiant, a judge who'd helped expedite Genevieve's case, began the ceremony with quiet dignity. Naomi had just started her vows when their baby delivered a particularly enthusiastic kick, making her laugh and jostle the bouquet. Even our little one wants to participate, she said, drawing warm chuckles from their guests. Dominic's hand found hers, steady and sure. His vows were simple but absolute. To protect without possessing, to support without controlling, to love with honesty and choice, rather than obligation. After rings were exchanged, Dominic's lawyer approached with the leather portfolio. Inside lay the final documents of his empire's transformation. Legitimate businesses, separated from darker elements, trust funds established with clean money, and the cornerstone of it all, the Naomi Carter Foundation for Medical Justice, providing legal support and scholarships to women facing medical discrimination. Your signature makes it official, Dominic said softly, both the marriage and the foundation. Naomi signed both documents with steady hands, feeling the weight of everything they'd overcome to reach this moment. Helena provided witness signatures, her elegant script belying her tactical vigilance. As afternoon melted into evening, their small gathering moved to tables set beneath strung lights and orange trees. The villa's chef served an intimate feast while a string quartet played softly. Naomi had traded her heels for bare feet, feeling at home on the sun-warmed stones. Later, she found Dominic in a quiet corner of the courtyard, his jacket draped over a chair as he studied building plans for the nursery. She took his hand and placed it over her belly where their child moved restlessly. "Still trying to steal the spotlight," she teased. "What do you think about naming them after your grandmother, the one who taught you about art?" "Sophia," he said thoughtfully. "She would have loved you." His thumb traced gentle circles. "We could hang that restored Degas print over the crib." "The dancers, perfect!" Naomi leaned into him, though Helena's already bought enough children's books about art history to fill a library. "She takes her aunt duties seriously." Dominic pressed a kiss to her temple. "Just like she takes security seriously. The townhouse has been completely updated. New protocols, rotating teams, everything triple-checked." As stars emerged above the orange trees, they said goodbye to their guests. Helena coordinated their security details positions with military precision, while Mara promised to handle any press inquiries about the Foundation's launch. The drive back to the city was peaceful, their convoy moving smoothly through quiet streets. Their townhouse rose elegant and secure against the skyline, every entrance guarded, every alarm perfectly calibrated. The staff who'd helped bury their enemies had been generously pensioned or integrated into legitimate operations. Dominic lifted Naomi easily across the threshold, her bare feet barely brushing the polished floors. She felt his whisper against her hair, soft but fierce. "I will always be what the world needs me to be, lethal when threatened, ruthless when challenged. But for you, for our family, I choose gentleness. Every day, every moment, I choose this life with you." In their bedroom, city lights sparkled through bulletproof glass. The bed was turned down, fresh flowers scented the air, and a small silver frame waited on her pillow. Their first ultrasound photo, proof of the future they'd fought to protect. Naomi touched the frame, then turned in his arms. "Every day," she agreed, "we choose each other." His kiss was tender, but she felt the strength behind it, the perfect balance of power and peace they'd built together. Outside, Helena's team maintained their watchful rotation. Inside, in rooms designed for both beauty and safety, they had created something rare, a love strong enough to transform darkness into light, control into choice, fear into freedom.